people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News. Okay, we'll start with this in women's lightweight news. Chantel Cameron versus Katie Taylor rematch eyed for November in Dublin. It was announced earlier today that Katie Taylor has every intention of activating her rematch clause so she can face Chantel Cameron for a second time, which is no less than I expect from Katie Taylor.
She's a competitor. That's who she is.
Eddie Hearn, Taylor's career-long promoter and chairman of Matchroom Sport, has confirmed that plans are in place for the Irish superstar to challenge undisputed junior welterweight queen Chantel for a second time. A firm date is not yet set for their planned rematch, which will once again take place at Dublin,
where it's worth the most money.
Katie Taylor's going to exercise that rematch clause against Chantel Cameron, Hearn confirmed while in New York City, to otherwise promote the Edgar Berlanga versus Jason Quigley card at Madison Square Garden's Hulu Theater this weekend. We're going to plan that fight probably for November time. It's going to be a huge fight.
You often hear me say that rematches are usually won by the fighter that can make the most adjustments. In this instance, you have two fighters that are capable of making adjustments ahead of a rematch. Though why would Chantel Cameron make an adjustment?
Why?
She won.
Not much reason for Chantel to change anything about what she did, but there is reason enough for Katie to do that. And in the fight, you saw that Katie made an in-fight adjustment.
The fight came with a rematch clause, which Taylor confirmed in her post-fight interview that she would invoke. Congratulations to Chantel on a fantastic performance, Taylor humbly stated during her post-fight interview. Thank you for the opportunity to fight for your belts. I look forward to the rematch.
Cameron commented after the fight that she was open to fighting at another weight class in a bid to become a multi-division champion. Taylor moved up for this fight, and Jessica McCaskill moved down from her undisputed welterweight championship reign to unsuccessfully challenge Cameron.
Chantel's done a good job of defending her belts at 140 pounds, but she's the one that seems interested in becoming a multi-weight champion. In this instance, moving down to a weight she hasn't made in years.
Before any of you out there accuse Katie Taylor of bringing down Chantel and attempting to weaken her, attempting to drain her, do realize it was Chantel Cameron immediately after that fight that said she'd like to fight for someone else's belts. She'd like to become a multi-weight champion.
I'll speak to my team and see what's next, but I'm sick of keeping my belts, noted Cameron after the biggest win of her career. I want to go for some more belts.
A move down to lightweight would mark Cameron's lightest weight since 2018, though a move to which she's not averse to since all the belts are spoken for at welterweight. The revelation by Matchroom, however, doesn't yet include a change in location or weight. Chantel will come into that fight as the A-side and the favorite, as well, noted Hearn. It's going to be a massive fight.
If Chantel moves down to lightweight, her reign as super lightweight undisputed champion isn't under jeopardy. She would still be the super lightweight champion even if she loses.
Kind of like how Katie's still lightweight undisputed champion even though she lost. She just lost at super lightweight. She's still got all the belts at 135.
Rematches are usually won by the fighter that can make the most adjustments. In this instance, it's Katie that has to adjust.
So I think she already did, and I think she did that right before our eyes in the first fight. When she started out the match, she started out creating space,
moving and punching and attempting to set up counters, trying to stay on the outside of Chantel Cameron.
That's how she started out the fight, and that didn't work. Chantel Cameron being a little taller and a little longer than Katie Taylor, staying on the outside of her
wasn't working.
Because Chantel Cameron's got feet too. She's not flat-footed. Where Katie Taylor would go for a counter shot, she'd miss.
Chantel wouldn't be there.
Giving up ground, allowing Chantel Cameron to then give chase, allowed Chantel to build momentum and throw straight punches from the outside coming in, nailing Katie Taylor.
That went on for a few rounds until Katie Taylor made a slight adjustment.
Rather than trying to stay on the outside of what was the taller and longer fighter, she decided to sell out and trade punches mid-range to inside and started having success doing that. Katie Taylor being the somewhat shorter fighter with the shorter arms.
Shorter punches, shorter combinations. It's easier for Katie Taylor to string together punches in the pocket than Chantel because Chantel's arms are longer.
And don't forget that even though Chantel is bigger and stronger than Katie, she's still slower.
Katie made an adjustment. She just didn't make it soon enough for the judges.
I think that's one of Matchroom's virtues as a promotional outfit, that anything can happen. It still is the theater of the unexpected. How Anthony Joshua lost 2 decisions to Alexander Usyk when if they wanted to, they could have robbed him.
They could have.
People would have been upset about it, but how many times have people disagreed with the judges?
Been upset about it. How upset people were over the decision in the Lomachenko versus Haney fight.
In the Joshua versus Usyk fight, they could have robbed him, and people would have been upset about it over a while, but life would have went on. In the Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron fight, they could have robbed Chantel Cameron if they wanted to.
People would have been upset about it for a while, but they would have got over it. Instead, the right woman won the fight. That's the Matchroom's credit.
It's the Matchroom's credit that you are actually witnessing a contest and that it's anybody's fight on any given night. Katie Taylor has to pick up where she left off with Chantel Cameron. Instead of looking to
Counter.
create space staying on the outside and counter her opponent, she's got to crowd Chantel Cameron. She's got to take the fight to her because within close quarters,
She's got faster hands. She'll get the better end of the exchanges.
it's risky because Chantel is a bigger woman than she is and a harder puncher. The more you open up, the more you're open to be caught, the more you're open to be countered. But she was having success in the pocket, so she's got to use that.
I think that's her best bet to win the rematch.
If it does end up being at 135 for Katie's belts instead of Chantel's, she would also have that working for her. That Chantel hasn't made that weight in, what, 4 or 5 years?
Could be weakened.
We'll talk more about this fight, this rematch, as the fight date approaches.
As soon as there is a fight date.
Well, when you say that, because you just said, like, what more do people want from Canelo? And Badu Jack is a very respectable guy, 3-division champ. Charlo's a great fighter, long layoff. But doesn't really matter who Canelo fights. Everybody wants to see Benavidez.
Yeah, but Canelo would fight Benavidez at the drop of a hat. But it's a big fight. The money's got to be right. Like, you can't just expect him. I mean, I've seen the backwards and forwards with Samson, and apparently there wasn't this offer and there was this offer. I don't really know because I wasn't involved with it. But I know if I'm paying the purses for Canelo Alvarez against Benavidez, I'm paying a lot more money than the numbers that were discussed.
And likely leaving the offer, the proposal on the table for at least more than just a week's time, at least more than just a week. Canelo's a busy man.
You think you're the only one trying to correspond with him?
Because I paid him a lot more money for Gennady Golovkin. And the Benavidez fight is a big fight.
More than, because David Benavidez actually came out and said that the offer was about $45 million.
Not enough money.
Another angle of this story that the Boo Birds don't often address. What do you think $45 million is to Canelo Alvarez? What do you think $50 million or $55 million is to one of only 2 boxers in the Forbes list? Do you think that's a lot of money to Canelo?
You got these guys throwing around those figures like it's supposed to mean something.
45 or 50 million.
Nowhere near enough money. Like,
Nowhere near?
That's not my decision.
Okay.
I'm just telling you that if I was paying the price for that fight, it would be more than that. So it's not up to me what Saul takes and what doesn't take. He's his own boss. I work for him. But if that does not sound like a lot of money in terms of what I know he's been getting paid for fights, for the size of that fight.
And Eddie would know, because most of Canelo Alvarez's fights the last 2 or 3 years have been promoted by Matchroom. If anybody would know, Eddie would know.
You guys think Canelo is scared.
But Saul is fearless. Saul would fight David Benavidez tomorrow. Trust me.
His critics don't. His critics have got it in their head that he's afraid of David Benavidez, even though Canelo Alvarez has ventured north of super middleweight to fight champions more times than David Benavidez. Who's got the better track record? Who's got the better resume, the better quality of competition? Canelo or David Benavidez?
Who unified this fucking division? Hey, who knocked out Caleb Plant and who didn't?
But the business has got to be right. And, it's just, they don't want to, Benavidez should be coming to me. And Samson should be coming to me saying, what would you pay for that fight? And I guarantee it's more than what PBC would pay for that fight.
They're not, because I don't really think they're after that fight. And what they're really after is promotion by way of name association, i.e., clout chasing.
Ask yourself a question.
You always hear the David Benavidez fans say that he's Canelo Alvarez's mandatory challenger. He's WBC interim champion.
Which is true.
But if that's true, why hasn't David Benavidez petitioned the WBC to order the fight between him and Canelo Alvarez? I mean, if you're not having any luck with him, what about the WBC? Why not go through them? There's an answer to that question that you may not like.
Put pressure on them to order the fight.
They order the fight. Maybe you guys reach a deal. Maybe you don't reach a deal. At worst, it goes to a purse bid.
But they don't want that to happen because they want to protect the position of the PBC and they want to make sure they can get the fight on their platform. I understand politics.
Precisely. We already know that Samson Lukowicz, under no certain terms, under no circumstance would he send David Benavidez over to DAZN. And he said as much himself.
Does that mean you'd be willing to fight on DAZN if that's what Canelo wanted?
No. I believe that his contract expired on the next fight.
Question was straightforward enough that if Canelo Alvarez wanted that fight with David on DAZN, Samson Lukowicz wouldn't send him over. He wouldn't do it there. So they're using this fight as a play to either bring Canelo Alvarez back over to Showtime, or they're just going to keep using his name for clout.
But isn't Canelo Alvarez the A-side fighter? Don't the A-side call the shots?
It's not like David Benavidez is selling pay-per-views up the wazoo over there at Showtime. Why should they be averse to fighting on DAZN?
Look at how well Ryan Garcia did against Gervonta Davis when DAZN and Showtime both had that fight on various different platforms. So who knows? But for me, Benavidez, Canelo, massive fight. But the numbers you said, nowhere near enough money.
As stated, these guys mention figures like 45 mil, 50, 55 mil, as if it's supposed to mean something. This is Canelo Alvarez we're talking about.
Not Errol Spence, not Gervonta Davis, not even Deontay Wilder. This is Canelo.
900,000 pay-per-views sold with the Miguel Cotto fight. Each one of the Golovkin fights sold over 1 million pay-per-view buys.
Just got out there with a little-known guy in John Ryder and managed to sell 450,000 pay-per-view buys.
You think you're saying something with a proposal of approximately, what, 45 or 50 million dollars that you only left on the table for a week or less than a week.
What the Benavidez fans like to do. They like to remove all the context from the conversation, all the context from the argument, thinking they're going to convince me and you to come around to their way of thinking.
Fucking idiots. Now, Eddie Hearn has said he expects Canelo Alvarez to face Jermall Charlo to happen next. And as you can imagine, this is already starting to garner criticism in the quarters with the factions of fans that you would expect. The same guys that for the last 2 years have been telling you that Canelo is ducking Jermall are now complaining that he's fighting him because Jermall hasn't fought in 2 years.
Aren't you the guys that said Canelo is ducking Jermall Charlo?
Aren't you the same guys that celebrate Errol Spence Jr.'s win over a lightweight in Mikey Garcia?
Saying things like Canelo should stick to fighting people at his own weight. You didn't feel that way when it came to Errol. You didn't feel that way when it came to Gervonta Davis, who brought up Hector Luis Garcia earlier this year, up to lightweight.
You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites, and I see right through you.
You think fighters like Errol Spence and Gervonta Davis, based on their marquee value, reserve the right to fight whoever they feel like, whenever they feel like? Well, Canelo's a bigger draw than them.
So if anybody's entitled to pick and choose who they want to fight based on marquee value, he's got more marquee value than the both of them.
Same people that celebrate Gervonta Davis bringing up Hector Luis Garcia, the same people that celebrate Errol Spence bringing up Mikey Garcia.
They're angry that Canelo's bringing up Jermall Charlo, but I thought that's what you wanted.
Careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Think people have forgotten what you guys have been saying for the last 2 years? Jermall's name was one of 3 names you constantly kept pestering Canelo Alvarez with. Well, here it is.
How do you like them apples, you little bitch?
Finally, in men's lightweight news, per tweet from Michael Benson, Gervonta Davis's trainer, Calvin Ford, I need him to become that guy sitting on the throne with everybody saying he's the truth. There's 2 left that everybody talks about. I've got to get them. Shakur Stevenson and Heaven Haney. They're the 2 that's left. Said this on the Last Stand podcast with Brian Custer.
Gervonta Davis is still serving out his sentence. Initially, he was placed on house arrest, but he went ahead and fucked that up, so now he's serving it in the clink.
Shakur Stevenson is still over there on the top-ranked side of things, and when it comes to Devin Haney, his name has been tacked on to multiple situations, a potential fight with Regis Prograis over there in Matchroom, and a separate report that indicates he may end up signing to Skills Challenge, the Saudi Arabian promotional outfit.
Are there any reports about an offer from Gervonta Davis to either of those fighters?
You know.
Either Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney?
You know the answer. We all know the answer. Gervonta Davis has been sitting there nursing a regular title, a baby belt, since 2019 when he first won it opposite the ring, Yuriorkis Gamboa, who wasn't even the regular champion at the time. That title was vacant when they fought for it. And that title is little more than just the segue to fight for the full version of the title, the full version of the WBA title. But as of yet, Gervonta Davis has never made any effort to get the full champion in the ring. Not when it was
Vasyl Lomachenko or Teofimo Lopez or George Kambosos after him.
And not now that it's Devin Haney. Devin Haney, who still is the lightweight division's undisputed champion and could afford Gervonta Davis the chance to win all those belts, all the marbles, in one fell swoop. No offer has gone out.
None.
From Gervonta Davis to Devin Haney.
Have you seen something that I haven't seen? Is there some bit of information, some bit of news that I haven't heard about? Has Gervonta Davis and his team, have they made an offer to Devin?
Don't talk to me about Gervonta Davis serving out that sentence. Don't talk to me about the jail stuff, because that's what his team is for. While he is otherwise preoccupied with all of that and serving out that sentence, what is stopping his team from making Devin an offer?
They don't want that fight.
They don't want it. They know that to get Devin in the ring, well, you'd have to pay him more than you paid Rolly Romero. You'd have to pay him more than you paid Isaac Cruz. You can't pay Devin, who's been making very good money for a long while now, an undisputed lightweight champion. You can't pay him the same way you paid them. You've got to pay to play.
Well, I mean, Ryan made a lot of money. Him and Gervonta together, they made a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's because Ryan Garcia added that value to the show. It wasn't Gervonta Davis paying Ryan. It's more like Ryan and his followers increasing the value of the fight. Because Gervonta Davis himself, having been on pay-per-view 5 times, he never once put up numbers like that. So if he did with Ryan, it's because of Ryan.
How many weeks has it been now since Devin Haney shared the ring with Vasyl Lomachenko?
And have you heard anything at all, in terms of a solid offer from Team Davis to Team Haney? I mean, if he really is the marquee attraction and the A-side fighter that his fans make him out to be, then where's the offer? What, he's too good to become an undisputed champion? He's too good to try?
Canelo Alvarez is a bigger draw than he is, by and large, and he thought it important enough to become an undisputed champion.
Canelo sold far more pay-per-views than Gervonta Davis has, and he still made the effort.
So that's no excuse. Marquee value is no excuse for Gervonta Davis not to try.
While Devin Haney may be on the verge of leaving the men's lightweight division, I'm sure he'd stick around a little while longer if the Davis people actually made an effort for that particular fight. I'm sure he'd stick around, but they're not giving him a reason to. So the talk now is he's moving to 140.
Maybe he fights Regis Prograis on Matchroom. Maybe he signs to Skills Challenge.
So if a fight between him and Gervonta Davis does not materialize, you can hardly blame Devin Haney for it.
It's not his fault.
Gervonta Davis's career, his movements, his decisions, what decisions are made for him, are painfully predictable.
I never expected him to make a play for Devin.
Just reminding you all these weeks later that he still hasn't.
What's he waiting for?
For Devin Haney to vacate titles and move up so he can be elevated to full champion without a fight.